Last week, we have introduced the definition of the dependent oration. And we have to know that the dependent oration refers to the 12 links of causation from the first factor of ignorance. Because of ignorance, there is some kara or some genius, some kara. Some kara is volitional formation. And at the last, because of the birth, there is the aging and the death. This being present that comes to be on this oration that arises, this being absent that does not come to be on this season that ceases. Okay, we have introduced the definition of dependent oration. And we have to bear in mind that the dependent oration doesn't mean that there is an effect which comes from the cause. We cannot say because of the cause there is something well goes from cause to effect. It is just a kind of phenomena. And because of our ignorance, we suppose there is an entity, there is something which transmits from the cause to the effect. That is not the case. If we call the cause under the effect A and B respectively, then it is not correct to say that B comes from A or that B is an evolved stage of A. This is very important to remember. It doesn't mean that the effect comes from the cause. For us here, it means that B is not an evolved stage of A. If it were so, then the language should have changed from this being present that comes to be, or to from this that comes to be. These two sentences are different. The first sentence, this being present that comes to be. This is the truth of dependent oration. This being present, this is a plural form of many conditions. Because of many conditions, that comes to be the same number of the effect come to be. That is also a plural form. It is not a singular form, but a plural form. How many conditions there are, then how many effects there will be. Each condition will change forever to the next minute or the next second. So suppose we have 10 conditions, then the effect should be 10. 10 conditions will conduce to 10 effects. So the effect doesn't come from the condition or the cause. The effect is not an evolved stage of the cause. Otherwise, we have to say, from this that comes to be. From this is different from this being present. That is very important to remember. Then we come to the next paragraph. This paragraph is a little bit hard to understand. Dependent arising, in other words, is not same kind of evolutionary change, an idea being associated with Samkhya philosophy. According to Samkhya philosophy, the effect remains in the cause in a latent, unmanifest form, and it becomes actualized as the result of an evolutionary process called parinirma. Thus, for the Samkhya, the causal operation consists in rendering manifest avibutta what has remained unmanifest till Buddha. This is uh, the explanation about the Samkhya philosophy. Of course, it is not the meaning of dependent arising. So we have to understand the Samkhya philosophy. Dependent arising, in other words, it means dependent arising means that the effect is not the evolved stage of the cause. Dependent arising, in other words, we can explain dependent arising from another angle. It's not some kind of evolutionary change. Evolutionary change means there is an entity. This entity will evolve. Something else will evolve from this entity. This is a kind of evolutionary change. This idea mainly associated with Samkhya philosophy. This idea of evolutionary change is the concept of the Samkhya philosophy. The Samkhya is a development of the four Vedas. So it is a kind of the Brahmanism. However, it is different from the Brahmanism. The four Vedas have something to do with the Brahman God or a creator God. This is a kind of theism. But Samkhya, although Samkhya is a developed form of philosophy from the Brahmanism, but Samkhya has different concept. Samkhya, we may call it, it is a kind of atheism. Brahmanism is theism, and Samkhya is atheism. Samkhya doesn't believe that there is a creator God. And the Samkhya, we can call it as a dualistic idea, dualistic concept. The dualistic means that there are two different principles. It is not the same as Brahmanism. Brahmanism has only one principle. The principle is the Brahman. Brahman is the creator God, and the Brahman is supposed to have two aspects. One aspect is matter, and the other aspect is, we may call it energy. Energy is some kind like spirit, which is not a kind of form, but which has energy to make other things change. Brahmanism is monotheism. Monotheism means that Brahmanism believes in a creator Brahman. But Brahman is the only creator. It is the only source of everything. Everything was created by the Brahman God. It is a kind of monotheism. Monotheism. Theism means the belief in a God, in a creator God, or in a spiritual power. The mono means single. That there is only one creator. This creator belongs to the spiritual power. It is formless. However, Samkhya have different concept. Samkhya is atheism. Samkhya doesn't believe that there is a spiritual creator, a spiritual God. Samkhya is something like dualistic philosophy. Samkhya believe that there are two principles. One is the spiritual principle, and the other one is the so-called material principle. What does Samkhya mean? Samkhya means number or accounting. The original meaning, Samkhya means a number or a certain amount, because Samkhya philosophy believe that we can enumerate means we can list one by one the phenomena. We can enumerate, we can list the phenomena one by one to explain our life and the whole world. This is the Samkhya philosophy. According to the Samkhya philosophy, the effect remains in the cause. In the cause, there is the effect. The effect remains in the cause in a latent and manifest form. In a latent and manifest form, it means that effect is latent. Latent means potential. It has not manifested. It has not appeared, but it is there. It is potentially existent. In fact, exists in the cause in a potential form, but it needs something to make the cause to manifest the effect. It means latent. Latent means unseen or potential, unmanifest form, and it becomes actualized. Actualized means to make it move or to make it act, to change, to become something else as the result of an evolutionary process. This process we called parinirma. Pari means outward or other or beyond. It means different. Nirma means name, or we may say nirma is the concept, our concept. Parinirma, it means other name, on a very superficial meaning. It means other name. For example, someone is called Mr. A or Miss A. Then this gentleman or this lady has another name. For example, we can call Buddha, and we can call Buddha as Tathagata, and also we can call Buddha as Arahant, or Buddha as an enlightened one. Buddhi means an enlightened one. So on the very superficial meaning, parinama means another name, but the essence is the same. The same thing or the same person who or which has another name. So the substance is the same. This is the evolutionary concept. Something evolved from something. So actually they are the same. They are different names only. Evolutionary process, parinama. So remember, pari means other, or another, or beyond, or outward. And the niyama means name. So it is another name of the same entity. This is the meaning of parinama. And when we use in the Samkhya philosophy, it means an evolutionary process from the source. Many things else evolve, or many things evolve, although they are evolved from the principle of the source, but actually they are the same in essence. They are only the different name. Thus, for the Samkhya, the causal operation consists in rendering manifest what has remained unmanifest. Therefore, from the cause to the effect, in Samkhya philosophy, it is only the rendering manifest what has remained unmanifest. The effect is actually already existing in the cause, but the effect remains unmanifest. It is only a latent form, only a potential. Something else will make the effect to manifest, to appear. This is the idea of the Samkhya philosophy, because Samkhya philosophy is always mentioned in Buddhist sutras or sastras. We must have a better understanding of the Samkhya philosophy. Here we can see a diagram. This is the Samkhya. In the Samkhya philosophy, there are two principles. Two principles means all the phenomena, all things come from these two principles. The first principle is called Purusha. Purusha means witness consciousness. Witness consciousness. It means it is the spiritual principle. Our spirit Our spirit means that we have the energy, or we have the potential to know something, or to conceive something, to perceive something, or to think about something. This is the consciousness, witness consciousness. This is the spiritual principle. And then we have another principle that is called prakriti. Prakriti is sometimes translated as self-nature. Of course, the definition of self-nature in Samkhya philosophy is different from that of Buddhism. Here, prakriti is always regarded as the material principle. So we always interpret Purusha as the spiritual principle, and Prakriti as the material principle. But it is a little bit confusion here, and it is a little bit misunderstanding of the Prakriti. The meaning of Prakriti is not only a kind of material principle, or the material foundation, or the material element, but Prakriti means it has the function of cognition, or emotions, or acting. So it is not limited to materiality. It has the function of our mind, our mental function. It is something like mind and consciousness. This is Prakriti. Purusha and Prakriti are independent from each other. They are not connected. When they are connected, then Purusha has no freedom, because Purusha has become the subordinate of Prakriti, or Purusha is under the control of Prakriti. A Buddhi, as we know, it means awareness. When Purusha comes into Prakriti, then Prakriti, the faculty of cognition, emotion, and the acting, are actualized. And this kind of actualization is called a Buddhi. The Buddhi means to be aware of something. Okay, then we have the explanation here. Purusha is witness consciousness. Witness consciousness doesn't mean consciousness, but it is witness consciousness. It means that it is the origin of the source of consciousness, and it is undeterminable, irreducible, unobjectifiable, and undestructible. Undeterminable means that Purusha is formless. We cannot determine what is Purusha. It is out of our speculation. It is out of our conceptualization. It is undeterminable. We cannot determine it, Purusha as something. And it is also irreducible. Irreducible means that we cannot reduce it to nothing. It is always there. It is ever existent. And unobjectifiable, it means that we cannot identify Purusha as something. It is unobjectifiable and undestructible. Undestructible, it means that it cannot be destroyed. It is ever existent. This is the meaning of Purusha. Then we have the Prakriti. Prakriti includes all the cognitive, moral, psychological, emotional, sensorial, and the physical aspects of reality. Physical aspect of reality refers to the matter. So, as I say before, that Prakriti cannot be limited to materiality. Materiality, physical aspect of reality, is only a part of the attributes of Prakriti. Prakriti includes all the cognitive. Cognitive is a kind of our mental function, and the moral aspect. It means that we can obtain liberation or emancipation of the Purusha from our moral practice in order to let Purusha transcend Prakriti, or to let Purusha no more controlled by the Prakriti. Psychological, it has something to do with our psychological function, like emotional, sensorial. In short, Prakriti has something to do with not only our physical body or matter, but also it is connected to other conscious function. This is very important to have a correct understanding of Prakriti. Then we have this diagram, very important. This diagram, when we have the Gurunam, it means evolvement. Evolvement means something evolve. We have gunas. Gunas means attributes, or the merits, or the potential, the function, potential function, or we may call it attribute. Prakriti. Prakriti has three gunas. Prakriti has three gunas. The first guna is called sattva. Sattva. The second guna is called rajas. And the third attribute, the third guna, is called tamas. So actually, Prakriti has three gunas. Gunas means attributes or the qualities. Prakriti has three qualities: sattva, rajas, tamas. And they are in a state of balance. When they are in a state of balance, Prakriti doesn't move, doesn't evolve. When the imbalance among these three gunas, then Prakriti will evolve. Fourth, Prakriti will evolve to intellect. Intellect means a body or awareness. Prakriti, when Prakriti is activated, is activated. The activated is a kind of power. Power, empowering means Sakti, S-A-K-T-I. That's Sakti. The Sakti, that means power. When Prakriti is activated by Purusha, then the balance among Sattva, Rajas, and the Tamas became imbalanced. So there is an evolutionary process. The Prakriti will arise intellect or body or awareness of something happen. Then from intellect or the body comes the ego sense. The ego sense means the sense of I, or the sense of me, or the sense of mine. This is the sense of ego, the sense of the existence of a self, the existence of a Prakriti. From Prakriti, we have intellect, evolve to intellect, and from intellect, evolve to ego sense. When the ego sense arises, then there are two directions to evolve. One direction is the mind direction, and the other direction is the physical matter, our body in terms of sentient beings. So we have the mind and the matter. Mind and the matter are two elements. So from Prakriti evolve to intellect, buddhi or awareness, and from awareness evolves to ego sense, and from ego sense evolve in two directions. One direction is mind, and the other direction is matter. Mind, the direction of mind is because of there is sattva, this attribute, or we call it guna, in Prakriti. And the direction of matter, or our physical body, is evolved because in Prakriti there is the guna or attribute of tamas. Sattva, that means purity. Tamas, not purity, it means impurity, or it is heavy. As we know, that our physical body or the matter or the material has some weight, it is heavy. The mind has no form, so mind is called purity. From the ego sense evolve into two directions. The direction of mind, then we have the five sense organs, and the five organs of actions. Five sense organ means that we can see, we can hear, we can smell, we can taste, and we can touch. 5 organs of action. That means that we can speak, we can use our hand to take something, we can use our feet to walk, and we can use our we call it urination, and even to exist, to expel our tongues. They are the 5 organs of action. This is from the direction of mind. And then the other direction of matter is from the ego sense evolved into 5 subtle elements and the 5 gross elements. 5 subtle elements, we may call them as the so-called earth element, water element, fire element, and the wind element, and also the space element. And the 5 gross elements, 5 gross elements are the accumulation of the 5 subtle elements. 5 subtle elements means we cannot see these 5 subtle elements with our physical eyes. We cannot see them. They are subtle, but they exist. And the 5 gross elements means the accumulation of the 5 subtle elements. We can see these 5 gross elements with our physical eyes. They are different. So in total, we have the Prakriti as the first principle of not only material, but also the spiritual function. And we have another principle of spirit that's called Purusha. And when these two connect together, comes together, then the property will evolve to interact to ego sense and to 5 sense organs, 5 organs action, and also mind. There's a kind of mind, and also evolve in the material direction. There are 5 subtle elements and 5 gross elements. We have the gunas. Gunas means attributes or qualities. Then we have the detailed explanation. In Samkhya Purusha, Purusha signifies the observer or the witness, the power to observe, to perceive something, or to understand something. And Prakriti includes all the cognitive, moral, psychological, emotional, sensorial, and physical aspects of reality. As I mentioned already, not only the physical reality, but also the cognitive reality, moral, psychological, emotional, sensorial reality. It is often mistranslated as matter or nature. So from this, we understand that the Chinese translation is a little bit error. It is wrong because in Chinese translation, we call Prakriti as the principle of materiality or matter or the nature. Actually, it is mistranslated not only in English literature or in some Buddhist literature, it is mistranslated even in Buddhist literature, not only in English, but also in Chinese, we have the mistranslation. In non-Samkhya usage, it does mean essential nature. There's no doubt. In other schools or other philosophy beyond Samkhya, Prakriti means essential nature or the self nature. But in Samkhya philosophy, it is different. But that distracts from the heavy Samkhya stress on Prakriti's cognitive, mental, psychological, and sensorial activities. Moreover, subtle and gross matter is most derivative byproducts, not its core, only Prakriti X. So from this sentence, we understand that the Chinese Buddhist literature always is a kind of mistranslation because in Samkhya philosophy, Prakriti, the main concept of Prakriti is the spiritual or the mental function, not the material aspect. So Prakriti means the cognition or mentality or psychological function and the sensorial activities. Of course, we say that Prakriti is also a kind of physical aspect of reality. However, we must understand, moreover, however, subtle and gross matter is most derivative by products. It means even the Prakriti evolved to 5 subtle elements and the 5 gross elements. The 5 subtle elements and the 5 gross elements are the byproducts, not the main products. And it is the most derivative byproducts. It means that it is the least important product. It is only a product, not the main product. The main products are the cognitive activity, mental activity, moral activity, psychological activity, and the sensorial activity. That it means that the most important concept of Prakriti in Samkhya philosophy has something to do with the consciousness, not with our physical body, or the 5 subtle elements and the 5 gross elements. Subtle and gross matter are not its core. Not its core. A core means Kritaya, the most important, or the central point, the central idea of Prakriti. Only Prakriti X the subtle and the gross elements are only the least important phenomena evolved from the Prakriti. Prakriti is the first cause of the world of our experiences. So bear in mind, the experience is emphasized here. The world of our experience. The world of experience has to do with our mind or our consciousness. Prakriti is the first cause of the world of our experiences. All experiences come from Prakriti. Since it is the first principle, tattva in Pali means principle, or in Buddhism we call it satya or satya. Satya is Sanskrit, and satya, the truth, the principle in Pali, satya. Here it is called tattva. Tattva means principle. The principle means the basic foundation of something else. The first principle of the universe. The sentient beings and the non-sentient beings compose into the universe. The universe consists of sentient beings and non-sentient beings. It is called the pradhana. Pradhana means the primordial element or the primordial principle. In Tibetan Buddhism, we have the idea of primordial Buddha. The primordial Buddha means the foundation of other Buddhas, or the source of other Buddhas. Primordial Buddha. It is the same as the first principle, tattva here. Pradhana. Pradhana means the primordial element, primordial principle. But as it is the unconscious and the unintelligent principle, the conscious and the intelligent principle are the function of the Purusha. But Prakriti is unconscious and unintelligent. It is also called the Jata. It is composed of three characteristics or three qualities. We call them gunas. Three, T-R-I, means three. In Pali, we have to call it T-I. In Sanskrit, it is three, but in Pali, it's T. Therefore, T-Ratna is Pali word. In Sanskrit, we call it three Ratnas. Ratnas means the jewel. So we have the three jewels, T-Ratna or three Ratna. And the gunas means attributes or qualities or essential characteristics. These are subtle. Subtle has the quality of pose. The pose means peace, fineness, very refined. It cannot be seen, it cannot be touched. It is very fine. It is delicate. Lightness, it has no weight at all. And it also means illumination and joy. And the rajas means dynamism, activity, excitation, and pain. Raja means we call a king as Raja. So Rajas means dynamism. It has the power to order other people to do something. Activity, it is always active. Excitation and pain. And the tamas means inertia. Inertia means no action. It is stillness. Tamas means coarseness, inertia, heaviness, obstruction, and slows. Slows mean sluggenness. It has no potential to move or to act. Therefore, we have the Raja and the Tamas to evolve from Sato, evolve to 5 sense organs and the 5 organs of action, and from Tamas, evolve to 5 subtle elements and the 5 gross elements. And don't miss mind. Mind is also evolved from the Sato, because Sato, Tamas, and the Rajas are the 3 gunas of Prakriti. When Prakriti is activated by Purusha, then the balancing state of the 3 gunas becomes imbalanced, and therefore there is the process of evolution. Unmanifested Prakriti is infinite, boundless, inactive, and unconscious, with the 3 gunas in a state of equilibrium. Equilibrium means balance, in a state of balance. If these 3 gunas or attributes or characteristics are in a state of equilibrium, then no process of evolution happens. This equilibrium of the gunas is disturbed, is activated when Prakriti comes into contact with consciousness or Purusha. It means the Prakriti meets Purusha. Then the balance state of the 3 gunas becomes imbalanced. Prakriti is disturbed to have the process of evolution, giving rise to the manifestation of the world of experience from unmanifested Prakriti. Prakriti becomes manifest as 23 tattvas. They are the Buddhi, intellect, or we may call it Maha. In Mahayana Buddhism, we have Bodhisattva, Mahasattva. It also comes from the Buddhi. The Buddhi means awareness or enlightenment or to know something. That is the Buddhi. Evolve from Prakriti comes to intellect, Buddhi, and the ego, ahamkara, mind, manas, or mano. The 5 sensory capacity, that means the 5 sense organs. It is capacities. the 5 action capacities, and the 5 subtle elements or modes of sensory content. Means the 5 subtle elements and the 5 gross elements, tanmatras, form, rupa, sound, shabda, smell, gandha, taste, rasa, touch, sparsha, from which the 5 gross elements or forms of perceptual elements emerge. That is earth, prithvi, water, jala, fire, agni, air, vayu, ether, akasha. Prakriti is the source of our experience. It is not the evolution of a series of material entities. It is not the evolution of a series of material entities. From this, we understand that in Chinese Buddhism, the discussion about Sankhya philosophy is wrong, somewhat wrong, because in Chinese Buddhism, we always refer Sankhya philosophy, Prakriti, as the principle of the material entities, but actually it is not. It is not the evolution of a series of material entities, but the emergence of experience itself. This is very important. The emergence or the manifestation or the appearance or the arising of our experience. And our experience is something to do with our mind, not with our body, but it has something to do with our mind or consciousness. It is discussion of experience under the relations between its elements, the relation between its elements. So we can have the experience, not an explanation of the origin of the universe. All Prakriti has these 3 gunas in different proportion. Each guna means we have the subtle, rajas, and the tamas. Each guna is dominant at specific times of day. For example, at night time, the subtle guna is more apparent than the raja guna and the tamas guna, because our mind becomes subtle. Our mind becomes not so active. And in the daytime, in the morning or in the afternoon, then the guna of rajas becomes very apparent, because in the morning or in the afternoon, we are more active. We are more active. And at the noontime, the tamas, the guna tamas becomes more active or more apparent, because at noontime, we are supposed to do or has no energy to do something. That means the guna of tamas becomes apparent. Therefore, the Samkhya philosophy that becomes a kind of yoga. The yoga practitioner emphasize when is the best time to do exercise. Okay. The interpret of these gunas defines the character of someone or something. Maybe we have more guna of subtle. If we have more guna of subtle, then we are more peaceful than other people. We are silent than other people. And if we are talkative, if we are active, then we have more gunas of rajas. And if we are a little bit lazy and inactive, then we have the guna of tamas. Okay, the character of someone or something of nature and determines the progress of life. Then, of course, we have to discuss about the liberation because in India, all different schools tries to find the way to freedom, to liberation. Liberation is called moksha in Sanskrit. In Pali, it's called moksha, not mocha coffee, but moksha, M-O-K-K-H-A, moksha. In Sanskrit, it is called moksha. We have the practice moksha, or in Pali we call it pati moksha. Practice moksha is the precepts observed by the monks or the nuns or the lay people. We call it practice moksha, practice moksha chilas. Moksha or moksha means liberation or emancipation or freedom, or we may call it the nirvana. The supreme good is moksha. The supreme good, the best thing is moksha. Okay, it is the same in all Indian religions or philosophy. The Indian people always seek for liberation. The supreme good is moksha, which consists in the permanent impossibility of the instance of pain, in the realization of the self as the self pure and simple. It is quote from Samkhya Karika. Karika means commentary or sastra or commentary, or we may call it explanation. Samkhya Karika means Samkhya Sastra or Samkhya commentary. Samkhya school considers moksha as a natural quest of every jiva. A jiva means sentient being. Every sentient being has the natural quest. Quest means search or desire to have moksha or moksha. The Samkhya states, as the unconscious milk functions for the sake of nourishment of the calf, so the Prakriti functions for the sake of moksha of the spirit. The same case as milk we have milk. The milk is a kind of matter. So milk is unconscious. It has no consciousness. The unconscious milk function is function or acts as. Its function is to nourish the calf. Calf means a little ox, a small ox or a child ox. The conscious milk functions for the sake of nourishment of the calf. The calf is a kind of animal, is a kind of sentient beings, and milk is an sentient being. In the same case, the Prakriti functions for the sake of moksha of the spirit. The Prakriti is unconscious, but it has the function for the liberation of the spirit. Then how to attain liberation or to attain freedom? The freedom of the Purusha, no more control by the Prakriti. It should be done through practice, and the practice should start from the right understanding. Therefore, in Samkhya philosophy, it is stressed to have the correct, the right understanding of the knowledge. The knowledge comes from perception, inference, and also word. Word means reliable source, or the so-called sabda, the teaching from the guru, the teaching from a teacher. We have to listen to the teaching of a guru. The guru is supposed to be an enlightened being. So what the guru says can lead us to the other shield of liberation. So here is the word Shabda. And the perception, we have to listen to the teachings of the guru. Then we have to perceive to fully understand the teachings of the guru. And then we have to reason. Reason means to fully understand, and we can inform from the guru's teaching to other truths, to understand more things. It is a kind of inference. The sources of knowledge first is the word. Then we have to listen, to reflect on the word, to practice yoga. Then we can fully understand the Guru's teaching. We can inform the Guru's teaching to other things unknown before. Then we have the correct view, the correct understanding of our existence. This is the philosophy of the Samkhya Yoga. So yoga means connection, to make our mind connect with the truth, how to make our mind connect with the truth that we have to have the correct understanding. The correct understanding first, listen to the Guru's teaching, reflect on the Guru's teaching, or think about the Guru's teaching and inform the Guru's teaching, and practice yoga, practice meditation in order to find the ultimate truth. The ultimate truth, then we can attain liberation. That's talk about the causality in Samkhya philosophy. The Samkhya system is based on Sakkariya Vada, or the theory of causation. Sat is Sato, one of the three gunas of Prakriti. Kariya means to produce or to make something. So Sakkariya means Sato, or our Prakriti, can evolve or produce or make other things. From Prakriti, evolve to the so-called Buddhi, the Buddhi, the ego consciousness. And then we have the mind, the five sense faculties, or the five faculties, organs of activities. And then we also evolve from the so-called ego consciousness. We have the five subtle elements and the five gross elements. In total, there are 23 tattas. The 23 tattas mean 23 realities. The Samkhya system is based on the Sakkariya Vada. Vada means a science or a system of knowledge, or the theory of causation. Of course, it is a kind of causation, but it is different from the Buddhist theory of causation. The Buddhist theory of causation is called dependent arising. But in Samkhya, the causation means the evolutionary process of our Prakriti. According to Karyavada, the effect is pre-existent. Pre-existent means exists already in the cause, but in the latent and manifest form. There's only an apparent or illusory change in the make-up of the cause, and not a material one, when it becomes effect, since effects cannot come from nothing. The original cause or ground of everything is seen as Prakriti. More specifically, Samkhya system follows the Prakriti Parinama Vada. So please bear in mind, it is called Prakriti Parinama Vada. Parinama means evolutionary, evolve from Prakriti. Parinama denotes that the effect is a real transformation of the cause. The cause under consideration here is Prakriti, or more precisely, Munda Prakriti, primordial matter. Munda, sometimes is spelled as M-U-L-A. The long U, Munda. Buddha means fundamental or primordial. As I said before, that in Tibetan Buddhism, there is a Buddha called primordial Buddha, primordial Buddha. And here in Prakriti theory, there's a Buddha Prakriti, primordial matter. The Samkhya system is therefore an exponent of an evolutionary theory of matter beginning with primordial matter. In evolution, Prakriti is transformed and differentiated into multiplicity of objects. In total, there are 23 tattas. Evolution is followed by dissolution. Evolution is followed by dissolution. It means that dissolution certainly comes from evolution. Evolution means to produce something, and dissolution means to dissolve something. Something will disappear. In dissolution, the physical existence or the worldly objects mingle back, come back, mingle back. All the worldly objects means the 23 tattas. Mingle means integrate together and come back, return back into Prakriti, which now remains as the undifferentiated. Undifferentiated means united, union, one. There's only one primordial substance. This is how the cycles of evolution and the dissolution follow each other. So there is samsara. We have the evolution, and then comes the dissolution. After dissolution, there will be evolution. This is a kind of cycle of birth and death according to the Samkhya philosophy. But this theory is very different from the modern theories of science, in the sense that Prakriti evolves for each jiva, separately. Jiva means sentient being, given individual bodies and minds to each. And after liberation, these elements of Prakriti merges into the Buddha Prakriti, or the fundamental or the primordial Prakriti. Another uniqueness of Samkhya is that not only physical entities, but even mind, ego, and intelligence are regarded as forms of unconsciousness, quite different from the pure consciousness. The pure consciousness refers to the Purusha. It is quite different. Samkhya theorize that Prakriti is the source of the perceived world of becoming. It is pure potentiality that evolves itself successively into 23 tattas or principles. The evolution itself is possible because Prakriti is always in a state of tension, among its constituent strains of gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. When they are in a state of balance, then there is no evolution. But there are three. If there are three gunas, a tension exists among these three gunas. For example, if I'm alone, then I am free to do anything. But if I am together with you and the others. If we have a group of people, then we are not free to do anything. So attention always exists there. Attention exists in something more than two. If there are two things, then tension exists. For example, husband and the wife, two people, then attention exists there. If there's only single man or single woman, there's no tension. However, if there is a couple of husband and wife, then there's tension. Like even a tension exists between a mother and her daughter, or father and her and his child. So there's always a tension among these three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. In a state of equilibrium, these gunas, when the three together are one, are manifest. Prakriti, which is unknowable, we cannot know where is the prakriti. A guna is an entity that can change, either increase or decrease. Therefore, pure consciousness is called nirguna, or without any modification. A pure consciousness refers to the Purusha. A Purusha is nirguna, N-I-R. N-I-R means no or none. Purusha has no guna. Purusha has no any modification. It means that a Purusha cannot evolve, cannot produce something else. It is the function of the Prakriti, because Prakriti has three gunas. And these three gunas are always intention. So it may be activated. The evolution obeys causality relationship with primal nature, or primordial nature, or self-nature itself, being the material cause of all physical creation. The cause and effect theory of Samkhya is called Satkariya Vada, or the theory of existent causes, and the holds that nothing can really be created from or destroyed into nothing else. From nothing else, there cannot have anything appearing. And from anything, there cannot go to nothing. All evolution is simply the transformation of the primal nature or the self-nature from one form to another. Samkhya cosmology describes how life emerges in the universe. The relationship between Purusha and Prakriti is crucial to Patanjali's yoga system, a kind of yoga techniques. The strength of Samkhya thought can be traced back to the Vedic speculation of creation, in particular in the Rig, R-E-G-D, Rig Veda. In Rig Veda, there is a discussion about the creation of our universe, the creation of the sentient beings. Of course, in Vedas, as I said before, Brahmanism or Hinduism is a kind of parinama theory. But Brahmanism is not called Prakriti Parinama. or Satkarya Parinama. Brahmanism is called Brahma Parinama Veda. Brahma Parinama. It means that all sentient beings and non-sentient beings are created by the Brahman God. Brahman God is the creator. But Samkhya is an offspring of Veda theory. It becomes Asic. Brahmanism is theism, and the Samkhya is atheism, because in Samkhya philosophy, there are dualistic principles. The first principle is called Prakriti. The second principle is called Purusha. So it is dualistic principle. It is also frequently mentioned in Mahabharata and the Yoga Pachita. Mahabharata, we know there is a famous book called Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is very famous. Bhagavad Gita belongs to Hinduism. And Mahabharata is a school. The most important scripture or book or canon of Mahabharata is so-called Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad in Buddhism, we refer Bhagavad to the Buddha or the Bright One. And in Hinduism, in Mahabharata philosophy, the most important canon is called Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita has already been translated into Chinese, and many Chinese readers like Bhagavad Gita, this book very much. Actually, it is not a Buddhist book. It is the Mahabharata, or a branch of Hinduism. Let's make a conclusion. In Indian philosophy, there are basically three major cosmological theories of origin. Very important. This is the background of the emergence of Buddhism. If we want to fully understand Buddhism, we have to understand the philosophical background of India. There are basically three major cosmological theories of origination. The first one is Arambhavada. Arambha means accumulation. The theory of atomic agglomeration. Agglomeration means accumulation. To put many things together, to combine many things together into one. Atomic means the particle, the smallest particle of matter. So Arambhavada is a kind of the theory of atomic agglomeration. It means the whole universe is nothing but the accumulation or the agglomeration of many particles. As modern physics or chemistry, we have 109 elements. We can divide all matters into atom, and then into particle, and then into particle, we have the so-called quantum, the quantum theory, and so on. This is a kind of Arambhavata. Arambha means accumulation. It is the atomic agglomeration. Based on the theory of Asakarya Vata. As I said before, Sat means the Sattva, one of the three gunas of property. And Karya means production or making. And we put A as a prefix before Satkaya, means it is not. It is not Satkariya Vata. It means it is not a kind of evolutionary philosophy. It is not evolutionary philosophy, but it is a philosophy of atomic agglomeration, atomic or particles or quantums, we may call it quantum. In modern physics, we call it quantum. The quantum accumulation. We put many quantums or particles or wave and so on into an atom, and then we can have the particle, and then we have the matter. So it is called Asatkariyavata, that the effect, which is something newly produced, does not exist in the cause. So it is different from the so-called parinirma. Parinirma is evolutionary. All things are the products of the fourth principle. The fourth cosmological theory is Arambha Veda. That we have the second theory that's called Parinirma Veda. Parinirma Veda. The theory of real transformation based on Satkariya Veda, that the effect, though phenomenally different, is substantially identical with the cause that pre-exists latently in it. As we explained already, there are two major philosophies. One is the Sankhya philosophy. Sankhya philosophy, we can call it, it is the Prakriti Parinama Vata. And the other Hinduism philosophy belong to the Brahma Parinama Vata. And then we have the third theory, Vivata Vata. Vivata Vata means the theory of apparent transformation or of false appearance. False appearance, it is different from Parinama. Parinama is transformation into entity, some entity, whether the mental aspect or the physical aspect. But Vivata means false appearance, apparent transformation. It is transformation, but it is a kind of illusion. There is also the false, of course. The Pradya Samupada Vata. This is the Buddhist theory. The Buddhist theory, the theory of dependent origination of Buddhism. So in Indian philosophy, we can have four major cosmological theories. Arambha Vata, the Parinama Vata can divide into two. Prakriti Parinama Vata, and also Brahma Parinama Vata. The third is Vivata Vata. And then we have the Buddhist theory, Pradya Samupata. Pradya Samupata means dependent origin or dependent origination. According to the Sakarya-vada of the Samkhya school, also accepted by the Vishishtadvaita Vedanta. Vedanta is also a branch of the Upanishad, or the later development of the four Vedas, or nowadays we call it as Hinduism. Causation is the manifestation of what is in the latent condition in the cause, and so on. And we already explained very clearly the philosophical or religious background of Buddhism. Buddhism points the dependent origin, or Paticca Samuppada. Paticca Samuppada is Pali. Pradya Samuppada is Sanskrit. In English, we translate as dependent origin. And it is different from Arambha Vata and also Parinama Vata. And it is also different from Vivata Vata. Vivata Vata. Okay. We are known in Buddhism, so we know different philosophies in Indian Buddhism. Receive a question from the student whether this document of Samkhya, then Samkhya document could be shared with the student. Yes, of course. I can send to Brother Lim. Okay, I can send to you, and then you can share with other students. I believe that it can help you to understand what is the true meaning of dependent origination. If we cannot understand other philosophies, we cannot understand the true meaning of dependent origination. Okay, thank you very much, Brother Lim and other gurus. Thank a lot for your patience. Please to have your patience to understand the true meaning of dependent origin. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Professor, for responding to the clarification on whether the document on Samkhya can be shared. Okay, are there any other questions to be clarified from other class members?
Okay, John, all palms. May all beings understand the true meaning of dependent origination.
May all
beings understand the true meaning of dependent origination. May all beings attain moksha.
May all beings attain moksha.
Moksha means liberation or freedom. May the world be peaceful.
May the world be peaceful.
Okay, thank you so much.